The reason why your sales team is performing like this.
Our prices have never been lower!
Stop.
That is totally inappropriate.
Instead of this.
Everybody have a good week!
Is because you're probably making one or more of these 6 crucial sales team management mistakes. Question is, are you guilty? Well, let's ask these 6 questions and find out. Alrighty folks, this is Lloyd. The reason why I came up with this framework is because I've been in sales teams that have successfully scaled to 7 and 8 figures, and I've done so both in sales on the front lines as a rep, but also on the management side. And because of that, I've noticed a lot of different patterns which lead to either failure of sales teams or massive success as a sales team. And if you can avoid doing these few mistakes, you'll literally 10 times the chance that your sales teams will overperform month over month. So here's the first question that you need to ask yourself. Did you hire the right person? Listen, I'm not asking you to hire this guy for your team, but the problem is far too many people hire into this guy, which is a long way off. When you hire salespeople, you need to make sure that there is a skill set fit, a mindset fit, and a culture fit. And finding someone that checks off all these boxes is frankly a lot of work. So much so that most people actually underestimate the amount of work that needs to be put in. For example, the majority of people, they don't even spend enough time trying to find candidates and getting a high enough volume of applications. What happens is if you only have like a small amount of applications coming in, you're picking from a very small pool. And you're gonna have to end up just picking someone who's kind of mediocre, because realistically, if you only get a couple applications, you're not gonna have a ton of amazing applicants to choose from. Most people end up just hiring when they need to hire instead of trying to build an entire application pipeline long before they ever needed the talent, right? If you already have a backlog of great candidates that want to work for you, it's so much easier for you to find that person rather than rushing yourself because you only started the process a week ago and you're already desperate. Another issue is that a lot of the time, companies don't even find the right candidates in the first place, whether it be because they're trying to advertise the job in the wrong places. Another reason could be that you simply don't have a brand for your company. And because you don't have a brand and no name recognition, you rarely find talent coming to you. You always need to proactively go and find talent yourself. Imagine if you're Google and Tesla, you never need to try to beg and plead for applicants to come to you because people know your company and they want to work for you. So there's a lot of different elements that go into actually having top quality candidates apply to you, but all of that requires a lot of work. And certainly a lot of companies don't even know what the proper interview process and the proper filtering process is in order to evaluate the fit and the skill level. Here's the thing, if you want someone really good, that results from the actions and effort that you put in long before you even step foot into the interview room or the interview Zoom. You have to have a ton of attention building a really high quality recruiting pipeline, building a great interview process, even improving your own persuasion skills and role advertisement skills in order to get the talent to want to work for you. Because yeah, top talent, they have a lot of options. And I would actually argue that great talent is one of the hardest assets to find, but the payoff is massive if you can do the work properly. I do plan on releasing more content later that breaks down the exact interview process, as well as how to build an awesome pipeline of sales rep candidates that are chomping at the bits to join your organization. But if you want me to create that sooner rather than later, please just comment below and like this video so that you are notified when that comes out, and subscribe. Now, the second question that you must ask yourself is, did you onboard your sales rep and your talent well? Because let me tell you a story about the first 2 sales jobs that I've had. The first experience I'll tell you about was at the startup that I was working at. I was literally the first employee that they ever hired, and we were so early on in the process that we were straight up working in the living room of the founder's house. I felt like I was living inside an episode of Silicon Valley on HBO.
A company, like big office. Do you know where that is?
This here.
Being that it was a startup, everyone was super busy and no one really had much time to directly work or train me. So I arrived day 1, and when I asked, what do you want me to do? They more or less said, go figure it out. No sales script, no training really of any kind. Literally everything that I learned in order to do the job well was not because it was taught to me, but because I actively seeked it, or I asked questions to my teammates when I didn't understand. Pretty much it was very self-directed. Here's the thing, at that point in my career, I had already been in sales for probably 4 or 5 years. I had already experienced a little bit of management, and I had also spent a lot of time just on the front lines talking to clients. So for me, because I already knew a lot, I was able to figure it out on my own. But this is inherently way harder. Asking a sales rep or anyone new on your team to just go figure it out and to provide them essentially no assistance, 95% of the time is going to lead to failure unless you're hiring someone who has like a very strategic background and is almost like a senior manager or C-level type of talent, which you're probably not going to be hiring for a salesperson. So the vast majority of people will need that baseline training in order to succeed. Now, if you compare this to the second job experience that I want to share with you, this was a much more established company. They were already around 50 people at the time that I joined, and they were well funded as well. In fact, when I joined, the first day I arrived at my desk, they had a sweater neatly folded, put on my chair, my laptop was there, they had a company branded mug, everything was just super professional and well thought out. And naturally, when it came to the actual training, it was also incredibly thought out as well. In fact, I had one-on-ones with pretty much every department head for them to go through in exact depth what I needed to do in order for me to succeed at my job. Then, once I got greeted by the team, they brought me through this incredibly structured and rigorous 2-week onboarding process with all the department heads, right? They taught me exactly how the product worked. They shared with me who the customers were, our internal processes, and then we even did 2 weeks of role play with my manager before I even got on the phone with clients. So given such a rigorous and structured training, I felt very comfortable by the time that I entered my real day-to-day activity. And only in hindsight, when I look back years and years later, do I realize how lucky I was that that was my first job experience ever. Because I knew next to nothing, but I was okay with knowing next to nothing because they had built such an amazing onboarding plan that I could succeed with their help. And this second scenario is how I want you to onboard your sales reps. I'm not asking you to do what my first company did, which was provide me a mug and a sweater and a laptop ready and waiting to go. But I do want anyone who's thinking about building a sales team to have the same level of care and attention put into that initial training period and onboarding as I had experienced. And if you do that, even if it's a little bit work to set up in the front end, you're probably gonna get your sales reps to reach their maximum potential so much faster while also helping your bottom line. And don't forget, if your sales reps have mediocre training, they're gonna get discouraged and they're probably gonna quit. Whereas if you actually spend the time in building a great onboarding experience, they're much more likely to stick around. And believe me, if you need to deal with a sales rep quitting on you on month 3, that's actually more expensive than if you just never hired a sales rep in the first place. You gotta go then back to the drawing board and then restart the entire process. Massive waste of salary, massive waste of time. No one wants that. Now, the third question I want you to ask yourself is, am I providing my sales reps with really good, proper, ongoing support, sales training, and accountability? Let me actually give you a bit of a weird analogy to explain this concept. Imagine you just met a guy or a girl on a date and you're smitten, you're head over heels. And you do your best to impress them at first, as we all do. You take them out for dates, you buy them flowers. But 3 months later, you kind of get lazy. You get complacent. You think that they already really like you, so you just spend all your time eating Cheetos on the couch and you're getting fat and you're watching TV, whatever it may be. And you know what? You made a great first impression. Congratulations. But in the long term, you're still a terrible girlfriend or boyfriend if you feel as though, oh, I did so great in the first 2 weeks, I don't need to ever put in effort ever again. That is not how relationships work. And that's also not how your relationship with your employees, because a great onboarding is just that. It's a great onboarding. It gets them set up for a potential future full of success. But no one ever gets to their maximum capability just because they had 2 weeks of practice. Your sales reps need to be constantly growing and improving, and that means coaching and feedback needs to happen, if not weekly, even potentially daily. So what does that look like? Well, back when I had that first job out of university, the one that I was telling you about earlier that had really great processes and they really put a lot of intention in, The way that they helped me was every single day, we had a quick sales huddle with all the people in my sales team to talk about wins, goals, and what we were trying to do for that day. And then weekly, we had role plays. We had pipeline reviews to see what deals were in the CRM. We just had question and answer with our direct managers if we had any issues that we wanted to talk about. So building this in, not only initially, but also in more of an ongoing repeated process was a massive help for me. And that's what I would like you to do as well for your sales team in order for them to continuously grow. And in my experience, if you can do this, you'll actually see your sales reps really hitting an amazing level of momentum on month 3 to month 6. So that's really how long it takes. Even if you do a lot of great work, you're probably not going to see your sales reps performing at their maximum potential in the first 90 days. So you got to put in that grind, you got to put in that diligence and that consistent effort into getting them to be the best that they can be. The fourth question that I want you to ask yourself is, how optimal is the work environment that you've built for your sales team? Do they have the right softwares to use? Are the processes that they're following every single day really well documented, and they don't need to be constantly asking you, it's like, oh, how do I do that again? How do I do that again? If they don't have these softwares, if they don't have these SOPs and documented workflows, then realistically, your sales reps are either doing things incredibly manually or slowly or unsystematically. Worst case, they're literally improvising and making it up every single time, which means every time they do something, they're doing it slightly different. And you certainly wouldn't ever see Tesla having this like improvised way of building cars. They obviously follow a very rigorous and well-tested process. This needs to happen as well. And without that, the environment that your reps are working in is going to be far too chaotic. I can promise you that any great sales rep will get frustrated if they're putting all this effort into selling, but the manager puts in no effort into trying to set up these systems for them in order to make their lives easier. It also means that they're being forced to improvise all the time since there's no standardized way of doing things, and that really just leads to chaos, which then leads to really poor results. So yes, hire great people, and yes, train them well, both early and ongoing. But make everyone's job easier by building the right systems, the right processes, the right software stacks in order to really facilitate a great talent to succeed at their role. The fifth question that I want you to ask yourself is, are your salespeople getting paid in a way which is motivating? Because I'm going to tell you straight up, I have quit jobs before where the main reason why was because I knew I deserved to get paid way more than what I was actually getting paid, just given how much business I was generating for the company. And not only that, I would say that the final 2 months that I spent at that company prior to quitting, not only was I not generating great results because I was incredibly unmotivated and wanted to leave at that point, but I would say that I was even like a negative or even a toxic culture fit because I was kind of being bummed out and I was kind of being resentful. And the other people in the team can obviously pick up on that energy. So if you have employees that are constantly annoyed and they're resentful and they're holding grudges because of this, not only are they going to perform poorly, but they're probably going to drag down everyone's emotional state, which is not good. You want to have great morale. So if you want to have great employee retention, keep your stars around instead of getting poached from other companies, and ultimately just create the best performance and culture possible for everyone, you're gonna have to provide good compensation plan. Remember, if we win as business owners and sales leaders, the salespeople have to win too. Sales is a very easy to measure game. Reward our best talent, they'll stick around and work even harder. And if you don't, they'll just go and leave to our competitors and then literally hurt us by closing the clients for them that they should have been closing for us. And finally, the sixth and final question that I want you to ask yourself is, have I built a great company culture? Do people like working in this organization? Do they feel safe around their colleagues? Do they feel appreciated? Do they have fun? These things sound a little bit minor, but I have also quit jobs in the past that I was very good at and even was generating quite a lot of income from. But I couldn't really connect with the people at the company. I didn't feel like I was necessarily being appreciated. Every single day that I was going to work, I was kind of dreading the people that I was going to be spending time with. And that really sucked. It made me want to leave. But the reality is, even when I hadn't left yet, I was probably not performing at my best because every single day that I was going to work, I had like a baseline level of anxiety and not really wanting to be there. So of course that's not going to be good for my performance, especially given that sales is such an energetic job. Have you been in a job before where you quit or you didn't perform as well because of the people around you? Or maybe to the prior point, have you ever quit because you just didn't get paid what you thought you deserved? Now, that is essentially it, guys. Those were 6 major points that can prevent your sales team from being extraordinary. So these are relatively easy to fix. If you need some additional help to fix some of these issues and you want to maybe consult with an expert such as myself, just book a call with me with my calendar link below. It's in the description, and you can just have a quick conversation with me and I'll give you a little bit of a pointer. No pressure, not going to hard pitch you at all, but I have helped over 120 companies build extraordinary sales teams that go into the 7 and 8 figures. So with that being said, if you haven't already subscribed and liked, please do. And here are a couple additional videos for you that will probably help your sales operations improve. Cheers.